What's going on, everybody? I hope you enjoyed that little cinematic I put together. It's just something different. By this point, I'm sure you guys have seen 10,000 reviews of this shoe. I mean, this shoe has been talked about for months and months. I mean, it seems like almost a year or more this shoe's been talked about. I want to give you guys something a little bit different. I'm not going to treat this shoe with kid gloves. I'm not going to come in here and say, oh, the Chicago One's back. Let's all jump for joy. We're going to talk about it. So I struggled with the format of how I'm going to tell the story about this shoe, because typically I'll show you the shoe first and then give you the history, tidbits, and so on and so forth. But you really can't show the shoe off without knowing the intent of the shoe first. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to present to you the Air Jordan 1 Chicago, aka the Lost and Found or the Reimagined. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first time since 2015 or then maybe 2018. We'll talk about that later. But essentially, the shoe is back. The shoe is back again, and it's a reimagined version of the 1985 classic. So now, reimagined in this particular case means Jordan Brand wanted to take one of their staples, one of their best shoes, one of the shoes that we all like, and put a twist on it. And in this particular instance, they decided to take the shoe and add a nostalgic feel to it. So what did they do? They took the entire shoe and they aged it up. The entire premise of the Lost and Found shoe is that when this shoe was first sold in 1985, there wasn't this fancy digital way of keeping track of shoes. Nowadays, you can take a scanner gun and scan it into inventory. Let's have all these fancy smashy gadgets, and they know how to keep their inventory intact. Now, back in the day, what you had was probably some scratch paper and all the shoes on the shelf. And oftentimes, pairs would either get lost in the shuffle or just plain forgot about. So now we start with the outside of the box itself. On the box, you'll notice there is this little mismatched situation going on. We had the top of an Air Jordan KO box. Now, if you guys don't know, the KO was the actual Nike-induced knockoff of the Air Jordan 1. At that time, Nike decided that people were going to bootleg their shoes anyway, and it might as well get ahead of the crowd. So those shoes had a little bit differences to them. They weren't quite the same material, the same color blocking, but they put those shoes out and they came with their standard orange Nike top. So from then to now, the standard Air Jordan 1, however, came in this black and red box. So again, because inventory would sometimes get mismatched and things weren't quite as tidy and neat, up to date as they are now, you can have a KO top on the Jordan 1 box. So Nike decided to simulate that and gave us this little mismatch matchup here. Also on the top, as well as on the box itself, you see the color has faded or scratched away. And again, this is to simulate 30 years of the box sitting. Just like in my opening cinematic, the box sat for 30 some odd years, and this is what you would get. Nice little touch here is a sale sticker. And it's probably been a long time since you've seen a sale sticker on anything. When you open the box top, you are greeted with a nice, and I mean a really cool, looks like a flyer, or this is how the advertisements came back in the day. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this guy out, and this is really, really neato. It's nice if we're talking 30 years ago. As you can see, the shoe was originally priced at $65.90, but it was on sale for $29.99. First quality leather. Really, really great. I mean, this is super dope. Now, I was not old enough or did not care enough about the shoe at this time. I think the shoe dropped. I was actually 1.5, 2 years old. But man, I mean, this is taking me back to things I've never seen before. Anti-gravity machines, of course, MJ could fly. Now, this picture is actually the skyline picture, which is going to be coming up on the Air Jordan 1 next year, as seen on TV. And this thing just kind of repeats itself over and over again. Tech specs. I think the metallics are on here somewhere, or the Air Jordan KO maybe on here somewhere. Just here's the apparel that MJ wore. And yeah, here's actually the KOs right here, I believe. Also in the box, and this is actually one of the most important pieces of the whole package, is this fake receipt that was made up by Jordan Brand themselves. Now, shout out to Mr. Unloved Ones. He put it out on Twitter that this receipt was actually meant to be an Easter egg, and it kind of had a double purpose. It would actually show some kind of cool nostalgia, some little tidbit about the lost and found nature of the shoe. And also was meant to be a way to gauge whether or not you had a fake pair. Now, we know fakes have gotten increasingly good over time, but one thing they may not be able to duplicate down to the T is how this receipt looks, with either the writing or the color or the material feel. I think this is a cool little way Nike wanted to kind of put their stamp on it and say, hey, this is the real deal. And if your receipt doesn't look like this, maybe you need to check things out. But of course, for nostalgia's sake, this is an old school invoice receipt. These Sandy Bros. Now, a lot of people thought that this was a real mom and pop store, which we're going to talk about mom and pop stores later on. But the Sandy Bros are actually Eric and Chad Sandy, who are designers for Jordan Brand, I think still to this day. As a matter of fact, we just saw Eric Sandy on the history of Jordan 11s that just came out on the Sneakers Live Heating Up, I think maybe a day or so ago. Eric and Chad, man, super cool guys. From what I can tell, they actually follow you back on Instagram. So a shout out to those guys. So that being said, it leads me to believe that all these names, Leah, let's see, this is Paul L and Leah N. I believe that they work for Jordan Brand in some capacity themselves, I just couldn't find out who they were in time for this video. The address reads 2323 Jeb Bernhardt Way, Covington, Kentucky 41015. And I tried to do a little bit of due diligence. I could not find out the significance of Kentucky or Jeb Bernhardt. I'm assuming it's a person at some point. I Googled the name. I just could not find out what it is. But if I find out between now and then, I'll put it on my Instagram or Twitter or someplace. The invoice date is 8/30/86, which I'm assuming is a year after or so, which is, I think, pretty cool that this shoe has sat for a year and maybe is lost. I don't exactly know. I should know the actual release date, but I'm assuming it was sometime in 85. So if this shoe sat for a year and got lost in the stock room, makes the story all that much better. But when you buy this shoe, you did in fact pay cash. It's a final sale, no refunds, no returns, and the price was $64.99. Something cool about this little guy here, he's either wearing an Airship or a KO. Can't really tell, but I don't believe it's the Air Jordan 1. The blocking of the shoe does not look like the Air Jordan 1. You guys let me know down in the comments below. So now we got the shoe. There's a lot to say about this shoe, surrounding the shoe. There's just a lot to talk about. So first and foremost, here is the Air Jordan 1 Chicago. It's got the varsity red on it with the sail and muslin. Now, typically, this shoe is varsity red with white, and that's your standard Air Jordan 1 Chicago. But in order to get that vintage aged effect, they added sail and muslin to the shoe. Now, on the bottom, I'm gonna go ahead and flip it up, and you'll see that there's an aged radial traction pad that is not like your standard traction pad because it's aged. What this looks like is the shoe has collected dust, and the actual color has started to fade from the actual bottom. Flipping up to the midsole, you can tell it is not a pure white, but it is that sail colorway. Again, that is the vintage effect. And then to the elephant in the room, the thing that people said they hated on this shoe and this shoe, the worn, cracked leather. Now, I will say on this particular pair, and I'm not sure if the quality standards are the same across the board, but at least the varsity red is a lot smoother of a leather than what is on the Visionaires or the Volt pair. The cracked leather is heavily present on the Volt leather parts as opposed to the white. Now, I'll try to get this into the camera right here. But if you do look at the white, you will see that there is a lot of cracking going on in the white part of the shoe. And that goes double or triple percentage-wise for the actual collar of the shoe. And that thing is broken to pieces. And let a lot of you guys tell it, that's what made these shoes bad shoes, worn, faded, aged, and just cracking. I just can't get down with it. I need my leather buttery. I need shattered backboard quality. And yet this has all of the above, and people are going crazy for it. That just lets you know the fickle nature of today's sneakerhead. Hopefully the camera will pick this up, but there's a lot of cracking on that toe box. Muslin colored tongue, as you can see, that is meant to visualize that age process where things just kind of, you know, age and change in vintage. That's what happens. They get old and yellow. Shoe does come with two laces, double laced up with the white and black, which is really nice. I actually do enjoy that part. I actually like that they're double laced. I think that's a good little tell that, you know, if your pair came with a lace bag, there's something to look into there. So as far as the shoe itself and the color blocking materials, that's about it. That's to be expected. We've seen these things before, but this particular shoe, the shape and the other things, that's all brand new. So if you guys have tuned in to myself, Mr. Unloved Ones, and Lex72 on Instagram on our show Geeks and Soul, we have talked about ad nauseum at this point the remaster program. And the remaster program was an initiative that Jordan Brand put out to take some of the old stuff and make it back to the original specs, the shape of toes, the toe boxes, the colors, the way elephant print looks on the threes now versus how it looked then and back in 88, I believe it was. So that was the initial genesis of the remaster program. And all the Jordan 1s that came out from like 2016-ish, maybe until now, all were part of what I like to call the version 1 of the remaster program. So this particular shoe is the first iteration of what I like to call version 2 of the remaster program. And here are some of the subtle differences. First and foremost, you can look at the size of the swoosh. The swoosh on version 2 is much larger and it looks a lot closer to the 1985 release. Another difference is the actual Wings logo. Now, I think we've already seen some debossed or embossed. I can never remember which one is which, but you guys can see that the logos of the Ball and Wings logo up on the top ankle strap, as it were, are not the same as on the version 1 as they are on the version 2. There seem to be some size differences, and they should be noticeable between these two particular shoes. Hopefully the camera will pick this up, but there is also a change of the toe box between version 1 and version 2. Immediately looking at it, the toe box of version 1 kind of points up and loops up a little bit more. than what is on version 2. I think this one's actually closer to the 1994 or the 1985 versions. So if I'm not mistaken, 1994 was actually the first time the Jordan 1 retroed. From a top-down perspective, you should also be able to see that the version 2 has a narrower front toe box than the version 1, and these are the same size shoe. This one may be a little bit harder to see, but on the actual heel shape, the version 2 sticks up a little bit straighter. It's a little bit less slanted than what's on the version 1. And last but not least, I have to get rid of that volt. It was so bright for the camera. But the tongue tag, as you can see that the tongue tags are a little bit different. They do both say Nike Air on them, but the swoosh on the version 2 has that much more elongated, much more pronounced and curvy swoosh than what's on the version 1. The R in a circle, the reserve sign, is also placed differently on the version 2 than it is on the version 1. So with all that being said, going forward, this will be the new norm. For every Jordan 1 remix, or every Jordan 1 that's not a retro high OG 85, this will be the new shape going forward, and $180 will be the new price. If I'm not mistaken, the $180 price point was not supposed to take effect until this shoe launched, but I think it actually happened as early as a stage haze, maybe back in May or June. Don't quote me on that, but I think this was supposed to be it. I also do believe that the next shoe we're gonna see that's like this is the Gorge Green that's coming out, I believe, in end of this month or maybe December. So now all the hoopla, an absolute circus surrounding this shoe. You guys have been talking about this shoe like it's the second coming of price, and I get it, but I don't. And I want to make this point before I go off on a rant that I understand where you're coming from. The shoe is not sneaker of the year. It's a great shoe. It's a piece of history. It's iconic. It's classic. It's not sneaker of the year though. I've not come to the conclusion which shoe is the shoe of the year. Probably the Alma Year 4 if I'm lucky enough to grab it. But it's just not this. You guys wanted this to be sneaker of the year for several reasons. And the most pressing reason is FOMO, the fear of missing out. You guys remember when a 2015 Air Jordan 1 Chicago dropped and it was probably priced around $600 on the aftermarket. And you thought to yourself, well, I have time. I can go back and get that, or I'll wait it out and the prices will slowly drop. And then the pandemic, and then the Last Dance documentary dropped, and now this shoe goes up to $2,000, and well, there goes that. And you guys see the off-white Chicago one that's $3,000, $4,000, $7,000, some absorbent amount of money that we are not going to pay for that shoe. Then you have the Order Story ones that's a little bit better price, but still out of some people's range. I mean, this is $1,000 shoes, more than some people's car payment, more than some people's insurance car payment, and maybe some of your rents all together for this shoe. And you're like, nah, hell no, nah, I'm done. No Chicago's for me. And then you hear that there's 500,000 pairs of these made. And then you think, this is my last best chance to get this shoe for retail. This is my last best chance to have a piece of history. The shoe that Jordan did it all in. This is the shoe that he put up all those accolades in. This is my last best chance to get a Chicago for retail from the brand with no issues. And if I don't get this now, I'll never have the opportunity ever again. I get it. It is a great shoe, but it is not going to change your life. No one will be talking about this shoe 5 months from now. It's a good chance that after this cycle has ended and we move on to the next thing, no one will be talking about this shoe beyond sneaker of the year contention. So I urge you, yes, please do your best. Put in the raffles, get this shoe. Don't feel so bad if you don't get this shoe. There's other shoes that may be better that dropped this year. I think I like the Starfish one, maybe better than this. So this shoe did drop via exclusive access on the Sneakers app if you took reportedly 20 L's or more on Jordan 1s. I can say that's probably me. Within the last 3 years since I've been collecting, I've taken probably 20 L's. And there was a nice little nod, lost and found. You lost all those raffles and you found yourself with exclusive access to this one. You know, good on Jordan Brand for trying to do something different. It is a great shoe, but certainly not worth the $1,200, $1,000 people were paying when this shoe initially hit StockX. This also may be the fastest decline and the sharpest decline of aftermarket purchase price that I've seen in a long time. I mean, these things went from about $1,200 per pair to maybe $350, $400 per pair, seemingly within a matter of maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So even with all that, the thing I found most ironic about the actual receipt, about the release of this shoe, was the mom and pop store, the mom and pop, aura surrounding that. And it's crazy because Nike has been almost single-handedly behind the demise of the mom and pop store. Love Nike, love Jordan Brand. I love the juggernaut that they have become, but they did not make it easy for the little guy, the mom and pop corner store, to survive when they put all of their allocations into the big box store, your Foot Lockers, your Champs, your Finish Lines. And so it seemed as if they were trying to do something a little bit different by making this a neighborhood drop. But so far, this doesn't seem to be a neighborhood drop in the same vein as like the Heirloom. With the Heirloom release, mom and pop stores that do still exist, the boutiques, they had the opportunity to run their own ad campaigns. Nike and Sneakers app actually put the list of every store that had the Heirlooms up on their actual app. And I haven't seen such a thing as yet. Now, right now, stores are slowly starting to roll out their campaigns for the shoe, even though they drop in like 4 days from now. But I mean, they're here, they're gonna be around for a while until they're not around anymore, if that makes sense. But listen, guys, this is an important shoe for a multitude of reasons. One, it is in Chicago. Two, it's actually the first release of the new Jordan 1 Remastered version 2, as I like to call the program. And three, this may be the last Chicago we get for several years. A lot of speculation that in 2025, we're gonna have an high OG 85 Chicago color. Not gonna happen. We may not see a Chicago release for quite some time. So hopefully there's a lot of pairs that go around. I do hope and pray that you guys get your hands on these. But if you can't, listen, it's not the end of the world. It's just leather and rubber at the end of the day. If you do think this is sneaker of the year, however, let me know down in your comments below. If you think it's something else, that's actually what I'm more, interested in hearing. If you think another shoe is sneaker of the year, also let me know down in the comments below. That being said, I'm gonna go outside, put these guys on feet. I'm not gonna do a bunch of crazy lace swaps. I'm gonna give you one white and one black. You guys have seen in Chicago 1,000 times at this point. So, but you know what? I like to destroy any resale value that's available, and I'm about to go do that with these shoes. I also will say I have a ton of raffles that I still have in for the shoe. So the more I hit, I'm gonna grab them all, and I will be releasing them to you all for retail. All right. Hopefully you guys stuck around to hear that part. If I get these raffles in my hand, I'm gonna be giving them out to you guys for retail, sizes 10 to 12. All right. So that being said, I'm out of here. On feet. Y'all be easy. Peace out. I can smell it. Oh, the original cut. There it absolutely is. I might like it better than the 2020 version. Those ones right. And I had to have